What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I'm back. I'm sorry about yesterday. I've been having this issue going on with a tooth. I'm gonna have to get it pulled, and this thing just swole up. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. It's kind of swollen right now. It's hard to see on camera, but man, that thing was puffed up yesterday, and my jaw hurt. I couldn't really even talk. It hurt to speak. It hurt to chew. It hurt to do anything. But I'm trying to work all these issues out. But let's get into some news because we missed some stuff, right? So, check this out, y'all.
But first of all, I would like to thank the President of the United States for paying so much attention to regulating the conflict in Ukraine. Of course, we all have lots of current issues to deal with. We're hoping that their activity, we understand that their activity is aimed at reducing loss of human life in the conflict. Secondly, we agree with the proposals for the ceasefire, but our position is based on the assumption that the ceasefire would lead to a long-term peace, something that would remove the initial reasons for the crisis. As for the readiness of Ukraine to ceasefire, there's a meeting between Americans and Ukrainians in Saudi Arabia, and it looks like a decision that is taken by Ukrainian side under American pressure. In reality, I am completely convinced that Ukraine had to ask Americans, insist on this, based on the situation on the ground.
Yeah, so far today, I haven't seen anything from the mainstream news about any of this. Nothing about the ceasefire deal that's going on. Of course, it's a limited ceasefire deal, but nevertheless, it's a step in the right direction. It's a step toward peace. In the mainstream news, all they're worried about is the price of eggs and some made-up constitutional crisis that's going on because, oh my God, Donald Trump said we need to impeach a judge who's an activist. Yeah, they're making this whole thing up, and it's absurd. He makes a post on Truth Social, and the left-wing media outlets, they just explode. Their heads just come right off. Like, oh, constitutional crisis. It's like, okay, so even John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, responded. It's like, come on, he's making a statement on truth. That's it. Y'all are freaking out over this. All right, because this activist judge, I'm not trying to litigate this right now, but this activist judge tries to stop a military flight. Yeah, they were deporting criminal aliens under the Criminal Aliens Act. It's an old act, but nevertheless, most of the Constitution is old, so it doesn't matter. Like they're making the argument this is an outdated part of the Constitution. Like, what? The Constitution is out of date. What? Like, they're just going in on this like, oh, this is outdated. We should just ignore this law that he invoked right here. Blah, 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 blah. Like, hang on. Murder has been illegal in most places for much longer than this country has even existed. So, are you trying to say that murder is outdated? I'm just saying here, but without any further ado, let's get into this, because I just love how the Rolling Stone, I just love how they frame all of this. Check this out, y'all. Putin placates Trump, but dodges wider Ukrainian peace deal. Now, this is just hilarious because, oh, hang on, I thought Trump was a stooge of Russia. I thought that he was Putin's puppet. Well, hang on here. Putin's placating Donald Trump? Does anybody else find this a bit hilarious? Let's get into this. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held an extended phone call today to discuss the war in Ukraine, which the U.S. president has touted as a major step toward kicking off peace talks in the devastating conflict. However, statements from both the Kremlin and the White House indicate only a limited agreement was reached, while Putin has shifted the onus for further progress onto Ukraine, demanding that Kyiv stop mobilizing and arming its soldiers before Moscow will agree to a broader ceasefire. Isn't that what a ceasefire means? Wouldn't they have to do the exact same thing, Rolling Stone? These people are insane. My phone conversation today with President Putin of Russia was a very good and productive one, Trump wrote in a social media post. This war would never have started if I were president. While no full transcript of the call has been made public, the White House released a brief readout with carefully curated details. So they gave us bullet points, right? Like, oh my goodness. Okay, sure. The leaders agreed that the movement to peace would begin with an energy and infrastructure ceasefire, the White House readout said. The two leaders agreed that a future with an improved bilateral relationship between the United States and Russia has huge upside. Yeah, because Joe Biden has just about destroyed relations with Russia with all of his nonsense, all this Putin's an evil dictator talk. Like, I just don't get this. How do you expect to bring somebody to a negotiating table and sit at a table across from somebody and discuss peace when you're over here on your corporate media like railing against somebody? It's just ridiculous. I don't care how evil the guy is. Right now, he's in Ukraine. Ain't nothing you can do about it, Joe Biden, unless you want to put United States boots on the ground. It just doesn't make any sense to just, oh, he's an evil guy, blah, 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 blah. But sure. But that's not going to get you to the negotiating table. That's because they didn't want to negotiate peace, folks. That's why. They want this global order nonsense. It's just BS. Let's keep going, though, before I get wound up over here. In its version, the Kremlin noted that it had agreed to a 30-day ceasefire on energy targets, but emphasized that it wanted a full halt to all foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine as a precondition for ending the conflict. Yes, that is a condition of ending the conflict. Why would you continually send intelligence and military shipments to somebody if they're no longer at war? These people, what they're trying to do, they're trying to set this up. Oh, well, Putin just demanded everything and Trump gave him everything he wanted. That's not how ceasefire talks work, by the way. The tenor of the discussion between the two leaders described in the readouts accords with the analysis of several experts who see Putin's intentions as placating the American president, while staving off meaningful progress toward a ceasefire as Russian forces advance on the battlefield. Today's Putin-Trump conversation will be about Russia-U.S. relations and what they each think they can extort from Kyiv, not peace in Ukraine. Professor Ruth Diamond, a senior lecturer at King's College London's Department of War Studies who specializes in U.S.-Russia relations, observed ahead of the call. Ahead of the call. So that's what he observed ahead of the call. But is that how the call ended up? Like, this is just a very biased statement from a clearly partisanly captured person here. That's all I'm seeing. Today's conversation will be about Russia-U.S. relations and what they each think they can extort from Kyiv, not peace in Ukraine. My guy, you need to, man, I'm not even going to go there. Russia and Ukraine were negotiating a halt to strikes on energy infrastructure well before Trump won the presidential election. Is that so, Rolling Stone? Did they? Well, you know what? You know what happened last night? As a matter of fact, last night I told my son, hey, why don't you take out the trash? And this afternoon when I got home from work, what did I do? I went and got the trash bag, picked it up, pulled it out of the trash can, and walked it over outside to the trash can and threw the trash out. When my son got home, I said, hey, son, why didn't you take the trash out? And you know what he said? I was planning on it. That's what I got from that. Yo, yeah, they've been talking about that for a while. Well, how come they didn't get it done? Like, and where's the evidence for this? Like, they're telling us this without evidence. Like, I'm really going to start doing this hardcore on the corporate press because they love to do it for Trump. Oh, he said this without evidence. Well, they just said that without evidence because there's zero proof that Joe Biden was discussing a ceasefire with President Putin at all. None. There's zero evidence whatsoever. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Rolling Stone just made that up. But you know what they're trying to do, as is the corporate press is always trying to do. They're trying to manipulate you into thinking that, well, Trump's just a stooge of Russia. So not a single concession comes after the Russian side after 2+ hours of a Trump-Putin call. Daniel Sizowiecki, I don't care, the head of the Eastern Europe program at the Polish Institute for International Affairs, wrote after it ended. Oh my goodness. Yes, he agreed to stop bombing infrastructure in Ukraine. Plus, and they're not going to mention this at all, they are exchanging prisoners. Yeah, about 300 prisoners are going to be exchanged. Yeah, that's giving up something, by the way. You're getting something in return, sure, but you're still giving something up. These people, did we all forget that Ukraine has taken over a large swath of the Kursk region? Like, they weren't forced out by this ceasefire. These people are deranged, y'all. The Kremlin has previously said that any negotiations with the U.S. toward a ceasefire must also involve a wider discussion aimed at lifting sanctions and normalizing ties and reshaping the world order to Putin's liking. Yeah, that's not a statement of fact, by the way, because we just saw the video clip from Putin himself and exactly what he said. Of course, it was translated, but we're taking the guy's word for it, whoever was doing the translation, right? But there's no evidence that this is actually fact. That appears to have happened as Trump and Putin also spoke broadly about the Middle East, the need to stop the proliferation of strategic weapons and enormous economic deals and geopolitical stability, according to the White House readout. Sorry about that. A cessation of missile and drone attacks on energy infrastructure will be welcome in Ukraine, but falls short of the water pause in hostilities for which officials in Kyiv had hoped. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had agreed to a U.S. proposal for an immediate and total 30-day ceasefire, but has been pessimistic about the prospects for progress and anticipated Russia would delay in today's Trump-Putin call. Yeah, he said that, and that doesn't sound like somebody who wants peace, does it? No, you would be hopeful. You would be optimistic about that if you wanted the peace deal, my guy. Right? Just because you don't get everything you want in one go doesn't mean, we're just going to be pessimistic about this. We're just going to doom and gloom all over the place, even though that's what the corporate press constantly do with Trump. That's all they ever do. No, you would be a little bit more optimistic about how things are going to work out. But, these people are deranged with Trump, so they can't be helped. It is clear to everyone in the world, even those who refuse to acknowledge the truth for the past 3 years, that it is Putin who continues to drag out this war, Zelensky said in a video address posted to social media on Monday night. For a week now, Putin has been unable to squeeze out yes to the ceasefire proposal. Yeah, but he did, didn't he? Russia, too, will welcome a pause in attacks on energy infrastructure as oil production and storage facilities have been the primary target for Ukraine's increasingly sophisticated long-range attack drones. Putin's delaying tactics in offering a win for Trump without making a larger commitment that affects Russia's favorable military momentum also plays into broader strategy to encourage and exploit growing rifts between the United States and its European allies in order to neutralize NATO. Yeah, these people are insane. All this talk of leaving NATO, yeah, you know what that means? That would mean the United States just leave NATO. Do you really think that means we're going to give up our allies in Europe? Do you think that's what that means? No, that doesn't mean that. That just means we're dissolving this organization, or at least our involvement with it. We don't believe that this organization works in our interests anymore, so we're going to say bye-bye. Does that mean that we no longer have peace agreements with these people? Does that mean we no longer have trade agreements with Europe, for crying out loud? Does that mean that we will no longer come to the assistance in the face of Russian aggression if it comes down to that? Does it? No, it doesn't mean that whatsoever. It just means that we don't like NATO. And if these people think Russia's going to come in between that, once again, I would say they are absolutely deranged. But hey, that's just my assessment, right? These people are nuts, y'all. Western dominance is slipping away and new centers of global growth are emerging, Putin told a gathering of business leaders in Moscow just minutes before his phone call with Trump. Yeah, I would have to agree with that, as a matter of fact. There are forces in the world that are trying to, promote and create this global order that, yeah, most people don't want. They might think they want it. But if you like living in a pod, eating the bugs, owning nothing, and trying to be happy about that, then sure. But I'm not one that wants to live in a pod and eat the bugs. No. As a matter of fact, I don't want to do that. I love my country. I love us being on the top. And, I'm not wanting to give that up to anybody. I'm sorry. These global elites, they are just nuts. They're just nuts, in my opinion. Moscow is gleeful that the pro-Russia camp with Trump's inner circle has vocally embraced its long-standing worldview, with influential Russian commentators praising the American president. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're not deranged with Trump at all here. Trump is much more conservative. He is in favor of traditional values. He is in favor of patriotism of the nation. And I define that as great powers world order. Yeah, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that statement, by the way. Putin and Trump coincide in accepting the model instead of liberal globalism. Alexander Dugin, an ultra-nationalist philosopher who has been influential on Putin's regime, told CNN in an interview earlier on Tuesday. Do you guys find anything wrong with that statement? Yeah, I don't like the world liberal order either. Yeah, I think it's a bad idea. These people are nuts, y'all. Putin also likely hopes that Washington's relationship with Kyiv will continue to deteriorate amid Trump's personal animosity toward the Ukrainian president. Once again, Trump deranged? Do you get that sense any at all? Trump has echoed the Kremlin's view that Zelensky is an illegitimate leader, at one point even calling on him to step down. I mean, is he wrong? That's all I'm going to say about that. Is he wrong? Considering the coup that happened there in Ukraine. Is he wrong? The administration's antipathy toward Zelensky was on full display in a tactless meeting at the Oval Office last month, in which Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance verbally attacked the Ukrainian leader, saying he was not ready for peace. You like how they framed that? Oh, they attacked him. No, it didn't have anything to do with Zelensky absolutely disrespecting the president in his own office. Yeah, that's not biased at all. Multiple U.S. officials have echoed Trump's assertion that Zelensky is a dictator, calling for elections in Ukraine, which are currently prohibited under martial law. Yeah, so what? One of Putin's primary goals in starting the war 3 years ago was to remove pro-Western, democratically elected government in Ukraine and install a puppet government friendly to Moscow. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that democratically elected, would you? Putin has long maintained that his fundamental goals in Ukraine are non-negotiable: no NATO membership, no foreign military support or troops, demilitarization of Ukraine's armed forces, the installment of a neutral regime in Kyiv, and territorial concessions. Yet he wants that damn land bridge. I'm telling you guys, that's all he wants. And he doesn't want Ukraine to be in NATO. I happen to agree with that, right? Would we all agree that having Cuba right off our coast was kind of a bad idea. I mean, we almost went to war over Cuba, as a matter of fact. And what happened with that? Yeah, that's kind of the same situation. The U.S. has already signaled its willingness to support at least some of these goals, including a ban on NATO membership and territorial concessions. Trump further said that his goal was dividing up certain assets in Ukraine between Russia and the U.S., an unfortunate echo of the secret deal between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union on the eve of World War II in 1939. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, in which the two authoritarian powers agreed to divide Poland. Ahead of the phone call today, Trump demonstrated that his views about the conflict were in alignment with Moscow's claims, specifically pointing to a Russian offensive to retake territory captured by Ukraine in the Kursk province. What do you mean? Like, I can't stand this. Oh, it's a Putin talking point. Well, if it happens to be the truth. So you're getting mad at Trump. You're kind of berating Trump here because he believes the truth. Okay, Rolling Stone, okay. Go right ahead and sit down. Tomorrow, I will speak with President Putin to save Ukrainian soldiers who are in a very difficult situation, Trump said on Monday. They are surrounded by Russian forces. If it weren't for me, they'd be gone already. I managed to convince them to hold off for now. Multiple independent analysis in both Russia and Ukraine contest this characterization, acknowledging that while the Ukrainians were losing ground in Kursk, no large units were surrounded, and the bulk of forces were retreating in good order. Right. Fundamentally, the war in Ukraine is not going well for either of the warring parties. 3 years into the conflict, there have been nearly 1 million casualties, according to estimates by U.S. officials. Yeah, that's what they want you to believe, folks. They want you to believe that Ukraine, they're holding all the cards here. They've got it under control. They're going to win. They're going to push out Putin. That's why the ceasefire is stupid. What are they doing? But I'm sorry, the numbers just don't bear that out. As a matter of fact, neither one of them are winning anything right now, right? Because I think Russia, for the most part, has got its land bridge. It has what it wants. Notice those lines of control haven't changed much, have they, over the past 3 years? That's pretty much where they've been the entire time. Sure, they go back and forth a little bit, but not much. And Russia still hasn't put 100% of its forces, 100% of what it should be allowed to put, in other words. Right, sure, they're not going to put exactly 100% of all their forces, but they could put a significant amount of their forces, everything that they can put, in other words, onto the Ukrainian front and absolutely roll over their defenses. Just easily. They could probably easily do that. Sure, it would be fierce. Sure, it would be bloody. But, it's still possible. They haven't been using the full force of their military at all. So you can't make me believe that Russia is trying to take over Ukraine and would just keep going if they did. If we allowed them to, right? I'm sorry, I'm never going to believe that. It's BS. It's just outright BS. And don't let the corporate press, the mainstream news, any of these idiots tell you otherwise. If you just sit back and pay attention, folks, that's all you got to do. Just pay attention, watch how things unfold, and read the news. Do what you got to do. Stay vigilant. Read the news. And you will see that these people are just blatantly lying about all kinds of different stuff. It is absurd, the amount of lies and manipulation that the corporate press try to pull over on you. It happens all the time. It's on a daily freaking basis. Just like this whole made-up constitutional crisis that's not real. That is absolutely not real. This activist judge... I'm sorry I'm talking about this. I'm switching subjects. I don't know. I was already talking about this, but this activist judge actually thinks that he can stop a military flight over international waters, something that two world leaders agreed to a situation where, the El Salvadorian president takes some gang members, and this activist judge is trying to stop them. Wonder why that is. That's what's going on. When you hear constitutional crisis, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what is this? Yeah, an activist judge is trying to stop a military flight. Yeah, on a verbal order, by the way. Speaking of that, I'm covering this on my next video, so y'all make sure and stay tuned for that. And that's all I got on this one, y'all. We've got a partial ceasefire in Russia, so things are moving in the right direction. And, you know, hats off to Trump for getting this done, considering how how Biden absolutely destroyed the relations between us and Russia. Just destroyed the relations. You know, how do you expect to work out any sort of peace agreement if you don't have any relations with the country you're trying to bring to the negotiating table? It makes absolutely no sense, y'all. But like I said, that's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.